Hi guys, it's Emerald from lovetosew.podcast. Yeah, I know it's been like forever since I recorded, but different things. I just hadn't really felt like it. Of course, I've been sewing, but really hadn't felt like actually doing much on social media and all that kind of stuff. But I'm back. So basically, what I'm talking about today, I'm just kind of responding to episode 94 of the Love to Sew podcast. I don't know if you guys have listened to it, but it's two girls from Vancouver, Canada, I believe, who sew, Helen and Caroline. And the previous episode they had was on why people sew. So they talked about why they sewed, and they also, read responses and everything from other people who do sew. People who've written in, I'll listen to their voicemails or whatever. And, got a couple of friends in the sewing community I was talking to. And my friend Raven of DIY Raven recorded a video. And I told her, you know what, now that you're videoing again, I think, it actually made me want to do it too. So I told her I would do a video. So kind of here we go. So the reason, well, I guess to start, on the Love to Sew podcast, Helen and Caroline identified like 9 reasons people sewed. I really can't remember all of them, but there were, I guess to say, 3, possibly 4 of them that really resonated with me. One thing, I guess the first thing is connection with fellow sewists. Like I said, my friend Raven kind of, when I was talking to her, it's like, yeah, I might do a video too since you did. But she was actually probably the very first person I met who sewed and really kind of got me into sewing. So, in meeting with her and talking to her and everything like that, eventually I did more in the sewing community, kind of following her lead and things like that. And connected with a lot more people, because it was really hard in the beginning, starting especially someone, in their 20s and things like that who wanted to sew. It just didn't seem like there was very many people who did. So social media really helped, kind of helped, I guess, cultivate that, and, continue to cultivate that, because I didn't really have any friends, near my age and in my area that sewed. So definitely, I sew and feel, close to those who sew because kind of social media. And then even though sewing for most people is a kind of like a solitary activity, and sometimes it still is, you're there in your own sewing space or whatever, just sewing by yourself. You can definitely, get acquainted with people who sew in the sewing community through the online community. So it's definitely, that is one reason I sew. It's kind of hard. It was hard for me anyway to kind of like find more friends outside of like graduating college and things like that. So definitely sewing helped cultivate that for me. Another reason that I sew, I guess number 2 for me, is a connection with like my ancestors and family members and things like that. Growing up, I really didn't have anybody directly around me who sewed, but I did know that I had family members who did. One, my aunt, if you have followed me on social media for a while, I do have an aunt who sews pretty regularly, and she and I talk pretty often about sewing and things like that. And she is actually, I live in Texas, she lives in Mississippi, so I didn't really get to, I don't really get to see her, but maybe like once or twice a year, but we talk regularly about sewing, and so that's important to me. I feel connected to her. That's one of my mother's sisters, so, we feel close and can kind of talk about that, especially kind of bridges the gap between, adult and child, kind of thing like that. So now that I'm an adult and she's an older adult, we can kind of get that balance between each other, and definitely that kind of brings us closer. And then also, my great grandmother, if you guys have seen my featherweight, and I'll show it here. that came from my great-grandmother, who I didn't know really that she sewed. I mean, I remember hearing about that when I was a little girl, but she died when I was 6 months old. So I wasn't really close to her, of course, because I didn't know her. But last November, near Thanksgiving, my parents gifted me her featherweight sewing machine, so that's very special to me. And I feel connected with her each time I sew on it. Actually, this might sound silly, but sometimes as I'm sewing on it, I kind of talk to her, and I'm just like, I hope that, everything in my life that I'm doing, if you're looking down and you see that you're proud of me, and that you probably didn't know, when you died when I was 6 months old, that, I would be the one with this machine. So, it just kind of makes me kind of think about what life would have been with her if I had been able to actually meet her and know her, and things like that. And it actually brought about more conversation between my dad and I about her, because that was his grandmother. I got to learn more about her as I was gifted this machine. I didn't know much about her at all, except that she died in a car accident when I was 6 months old. But in talking to him after I was given that machine, there was more conversation and everything about her, so I got to learn more about my family. So that's important. It kind of bridges the gap and kind of makes me think about, what might be for the next generations, and, what I can accomplish here in mine. Not only with sewing, but, because sewing has brought that about, I guess kind of what can happen in the future. And what, I guess if anything at all, just family and how important that is to me. Another thing, and I guess I can kind of combine 3 and 4 together, is one thing that Helen and Caroline mentioned is because we can't not sew. I'm definitely that person. Even though I was kind of like off social media for a bit, I was still sewing. I'm that person who has to sew. Like, literally, if I'm not sewing, if I don't sew, I can probably go about 2 to 3 days without actually sewing, or at the very least reading something about sewing, prepping a project, or anything like that. If I go too much longer than that, I get really antsy. I'm just not myself. I have to sew. Like, that is something, it calms me down. It really makes me feel me. And number 4 is kind of me time, so I kind of combine those two because it is me time. It's definitely how I kind of defragment myself and put myself back together. I have to sew. I guess you could say I'm addicted to it. And I mean, hey, it's better than drugs, right? I mean, I could be a meth head, could be a crackhead, but hey, I'm sewing, so I think that's a lot better than drugs, right? So, it's definitely something I have to do for me. And, I know there's some people, who, when they sew, they only sew garments, they only sew bags, they only sew home decor, they only quilt. And either or, whichever one you do or whichever all of them you do is definitely fine. But I started out kind of with garment sewing, but now I will sew anything I can get my hands on. I don't care. Right now I've got like 3 different projects up. I'm working on a bag, well, a couple of bags. The Fennel Fanny Pack. I made 2 already. I've got another one in the works for my friend, and then one of my aunts wants one. So I've got that working. I've got a quilt that I'm actually going to give my little sister, who is, she's graduating actually tomorrow. Probably by the time this video goes up, it'll be a couple of days back. But, excuse me, she's graduating, so maybe by the time she actually gets ready to go to college, I'll have her quilt ready. Let's hope. And I'm working on the Tilly and the Buttons Marigold jumpsuit. So I've kind of got those 3 projects in tandem. I just can't not sew. It's very few and far between that I'm not working on something sewing related, because I have to. It's part of who I am now. I've been sewing pretty heavily since 2014. I actually started back in 2011, really heavily. Well, I guess this time go around. I guess I had started sewing a bit just with doll clothes and things like that when I was like 11 or 12, and then we took a little class in high school. We were the last class of our school to actually get home ec, so I did that. But then this last time, like I said, in about 2011, you know, that's when I got my machine and things like that, and I really kind of got really heavy into it into 2013, 2014. So it's been a part of my daily life since. It's who I am. I cannot not sew. It's everything to me, and it brings me calm, it brings me peace. It pretty much, I guess, makes my wardrobe, because I stopped buying clothes in 2013. I mean, I've gotten a few things, like a t-shirt here and there, something vintage, but definitely I'm not a shopaholic anymore. I don't care for any of that kind of stuff. I want to make my own wardrobe that will last, and that's important to me. So sewing just does so much for me, and I'm so grateful and thankful to God that I have this talent, because I really do not know what I would do if I didn't sew. So that's kind of the reasons why I do. If you like this video, of course, I can't promise how regular I'll be. I try to be regular on videos, but for whatever reason, it never works out. But definitely subscribe, definitely like. If you got a comment, you know, please comment below. If you want to share why you sew, definitely, you know, I'd love to hear that, because, you know, I think sewing's important, and I would love to hear why you do. So, like I said, check me out. You can also find me on Instagram at Emerald Gina. I'll just link that there, as well as on Twitter. Not really on Facebook that much, because just no. But definitely would love to hear from you, and see you guys later. Bye.